Okay, this is the final phase of our videos on transition. So we've talked about the pivot and how the body moves coming out of transition or out of the top of the swing. And then Corey took you through what's happening with the arms, shoulders, wrists, and how we start to move the golf club with those parts of our body. Now we're going to talk about the forces, or what you may be feeling on this grip when you start out of the top. So I'm going to define what the potential forces are, and then what you're going to be using and what you want to avoid when you're starting the downswing. So I'm going to use the stick to help you understand what is possible along the shaft, okay, or on this golf club. So we've got the chopping motion or axe motion in this direction, okay? That is one potential force I can put on that club, or think of it in terms of I'm moving the pressure or force parallel to my scoring lines. My scoring lines will be running down if I'm pointing this at the camera, so in line with it. I can also run a force across the shaft or perpendicular to my scoring lines. And my third one would be the twisting of the club head, okay? All right, so we're gonna use two of those out of the top of the swing, and one of them we're gonna avoid. Now, we're gonna avoid it out of the top of the swing. In later videos, I'm gonna show you how we're gonna use that third force that we were talking about. Essentially what force is, it can be applied along this shaft by pulling or by throwing. So when we're talking about the top of the swing or transition, when we get up to the top with my trail hand, which would be my right, it would be a throwing motion. If we're talking about my lead hand, it's going to be a pulling motion. Now, when we're using that, okay, which is in line, which is this axe motion or chopping motion in this direction, up and away from my intended golf ball. So I'm going to step in my station, I got my plane station. So once I've reached the top of the swing, I want to start to create some kind of force on this grip that moves this club head both up and away from my golf ball, which is actually sending it back towards my hitting plane, which is represented by this noodle. Now, for some players, they may feel that pretty dominant with the right hand or the trail hand. Others may feel it with some in the left hand. But whatever it is, the feel is we want to pay attention to the direction this club's moving, which is up and away from the golf ball. Now, the one that we want to avoid, it's the one that is moving across the shaft. Now we're going to use that at some point, but if I use that early in transition, that would be this way. I'm going to end up in an extremely bad delivery position and plane position coming down, which is going to lead to steep hits and over the top and pulls and slices. So when I get up to the top, I want to feel my arms lowering, that right shoulder rotating externally, but I'm sending the force on the shaft up and away from that golf ball as my body is turning, and that will help plane it. Now, when I do this, I want to add this twisting, because this club is going to try to open. All right, so when I change directions up here at the top and go this way, this club at some point is going to try to go into an open position. So that's the other force. I want to start to twist on this handle while sending it up and away from the golf ball. I'm twisting it, and that's going to lead us to some really desirable positions on the way down and ultimately at impact. Okay, so to start to practice this, the first thing I want to do is just make some rehearsals and hit some soft shots. So I can take it up to the top, rehearse what it feels like to send this club up and away from the golf ball, being sure that I stay in my posture when I rehearse that. Okay? And after I've rehearsed that, I can hit some soft ones, feeling those same sensations, and then gradually working through a practice session of adding some speed. Now, another drill that I like to do is just simply some one-arm swings. So making some practice swings, maybe hitting some off of a short tee, and sending that club With my trail hand, again, I'm throwing it. I'm gonna throw that club up and away from the golf ball, which will send it more behind me, and hit some soft ones. Now, I would suggest doing this off of a tee. Not easy to hit it solid, but hitting some soft ones, feeling that motion in this direction. If you want, you can do the same thing with the left hand. This time it will be a pull in that direction. Feel as though I'm pulling the club in that direction. This one's very difficult. I would definitely suggest doing this off of a tee, but just be very relaxed on the outcome of the shot. You're gonna hit some bad ones, okay? But it's mainly making some practice swings and even feeling those so that you can immediately move back into a two-handed swing. A two-handed swing from those sensations, up and away, and infuse those into a normal shot. Okay. And then you should be set up from there with the transition and everything we've worked on, with the pivot, with the body turning into it properly, and starting to recreate the forward bend out of the top, getting the arms to work properly, the hand path, and then understanding where am I actually applying pressure and in what direction. And that's going to set you up for a nice on-plane downswing, which we're about to get into. That will lead to better dynamics at delivery, and then we can begin our descent into impact.